Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play all of the prologue of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we are playing Of the Devil, Episode 0, which is the amazing new Ace Attorney-like from the developers over at Nth Circle. But before we get to that, how was everyone's week?
So, you know how I said I hadn't gone to the optometrist because I didn't have vision insurance? Turns out when you go for a medical problem, they use your medical insurance. Turns out my medical insurance still ain't paying for it because my medical insurance sucks.
Damn it.
Ugh.
I am getting new medical insurance next month. It's United Healthcare, which has famously never made anyone murderously angry, so hopefully it'll be good. But I went to the optometrist, and they gave me some steroid eye drops, and those have helped so much.
Good.
I feel like every time I
Yay.
go to a doctor, it's like they try a few things and nothing works, and eventually they're like, we're going to try a steroid, and then that makes a world of difference. And I'm like, man, kids, steroids are awesome. Medically prescribed corticosteroid medications
Yes.
are awesome.
Well, I'm glad you are
I have
finally
my
getting
eyes
some.
open. What?
Yay!
I'm glad you're finally getting some relief.
Yes, it's good. I can see.
You
Now
can
I
see
can make
clearly
it-
now?
Now I can
Great.
make you look at a tiny Game Boy Color screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully for just one more week.
And I rolled credits on Blueprints, and I'll talk about that a lot in Victory Lap, I am sure.
Woohoo!
Yeah. What about you, Trish? How was your week?
I'm trying to think. I've had a pretty boring week. Not a lot has happened. I think the biggest thing that's happened is earlier this week, I accompanied my wife she had an appointment that was like near Boston, so it was like an hour drive there, hour drive back. It was without getting into specifics, she was seeing a urologist surgeon. And it went well. It was a very good consultation for possible future things. And we, it's one of those weird things where you could do a trip like that, and over the course of it, you have like the arc of like near the start, like it starts out good, and then something happens, and you get like bad emotions happen, and it sucks for a little bit. But then it gets turned around, and it ends up being a great time by the time you get home. That whole weird arc of a mini road trip. I don't want to call it a road trip because it was just an hour there, hour back. But, still, it took a while. I ended up stopping for a few things. One of which was, so for my HRT, if you weren't aware, you need to get your blood pressure taken every time you get a blood test. And that, I understand why. Because my medication can affect my blood pressure in a bad way, and they want to keep up to date on that. The problem is, I don't have access easily to a thing that does that, and so on the way back, we stopped finally after like weeks and weeks of having to do this at a place that had a blood pressure machine thing, and I had the thing where I didn't see it at first. And so I was like, fuck, we went out of our way to get here, and they don't have it, god damn it. And then I saw it, and I was like, oh my god, it is here. And then I was like,
got too excited.
Exactly. My blood pressure spiked because of that. And so I had to sit there and take it like 3 times until I got like a piece, like a thing that I'm not going to feel bad showing to the person. But that's been done. I got some refills. Other than that, Poker Face is back. That's great. I not what I was expecting with the season so far, but I'm not gonna. It's not bad. I'm enjoying it. What was I gonna say? Oh, and then also finished season 2 of Andor's over, and we finished it. And then I was like, cool. We just finished it. It leads directly into Rogue One. I'll watch Rogue One again because, like, maybe I'll like it better now. And I did like a little bit. But it's still it's okay to me.
Who was it on Blue Sky who recently said that they're sorry for the people doing exactly what you just did, because Rogue One has a middling video game story.
It's so true.
And
It's
I
so
read that, I was
true.
like, yeah. And then they went into detail. I think it was, what is their actual name? Cohen is a ghost, but whatever that person's actual name is, went into detail of, yeah, it's got a bunch of set pieces. It's got a bunch of party members that join you for just because you're the main character.
Mhm.
I was like,
It feels
yeah,
like
it feels like a video game.
there's interesting things it's one of those things where like there's a lot of parts of it that I'm like, oh, this is really good and this is really good. I think what really sucks is I think I saw it weirdly the best way you could see it first, which is when I was working at Kmart back in the day. There was a period of time where that was the movie being shown on the TVs in the electronic section. This was after the electronic section as a position was dissolved and they got rid of my desk and I was just on the floor doing whatever. But of course, I'd like to just hang around electronics because it's this area of the store I knew was my baby. And so I would come back every so often. And so my first exposure to Rogue One was watching random scenes of Rogue One. And I saw every scene of that movie out of context like 5 times before I saw it all in context. And then I was like, shit, this movie's actually better in like little chunks where I just see Forrest Whitaker being like, save the dream. And I'm like, oh, that was neat. I wonder what that was about.
Yeah, you see, you should have watched it the day before your daughter was born, so that it has a very special place in your heart forever.
Yeah, for sure.
That's probably was the best way to watch it. Because I love that movie so much, and I also love middling video games. So far, I don't disagree with any of the criticisms.
What's your week been like, Sam?
So, as oft discussed, because I couldn't stop talking about Xenoblade when I was trying to tell people I was trying to not tell people I was playing Xenoblade. I have been playing games just for me and not telling anybody about them. And so this week I played Return of the Obra Dinn. And by not telling anybody, I mean I told Bernard, but only Bernard.
But I'm nobody.
Yeah. And it fucking rules, like, so hard. It is so I started playing it because I want to be playing Blueprints, but I'm playing through it with Scarlett, and every time I ask Scarlett if she wants to play it, she says no. And then every time she asks if we want to play it, I'm actively working. And so it's been very frustrating. I want to just like spend 15 hours disappearing into Mount Holly, and I can't do that. So I was like, I need to scratch this itch somehow. And so I just, I've had Obra Dinn downloaded forever, meaning to get around to playing it. And I finally did. And the logic part of it goes hard in a lot of really, really cool ways. And I'm not even good enough at the game to like keep up with the game. So like as you're going through, whenever they have given you enough clues to figure out somebody, their face in the group photo unblurs, and so you can zoom in and look at them and see who they are. And like 1% of the way into the game, they unblurred like 15 faces that I didn't figure out until like some of the last people in the entire game figure out who is who. But it's very, very good. I highly recommend it.
I've heard a lot of good things. After playing The Root Trees Are Dead, I really want to go through it now.
I've been wanting to play it pretty much since it came out in 2018, because I played Papers, Please by Lucas Pope, and that just shredded my brain back in 2013.
Yeah.
Also, I brought up Lucas Pope's Wikipedia page. Turns out there is a Lucas Pope game for the Playdate.
Ooh.
So that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
I love the Playdate. Would love to play a game on it someday.
Mm-hmm. I also, besides Return of the Obra Dinn, I finished We Love Katamari, and also Me and My Katamari. And I don't think Me and My Katamari is going to get an HD remake, but I wish it would, because the
one that you have to play with face buttons, right?
Yeah, so it's 8-directional Katamari, which I didn't play it with face buttons because I have a Vita and I can map the right stick to the face buttons, and so I did that, and that made it
a
lot.
PSP game.
Yeah,
to be clear for people.
Yeah, and so I enjoyed it that way. It was very frustrating needing to go like not 45 degrees, but like 30 degrees northeast, and you can't do that. And that like the running into that was kind of annoying sometimes, but like I love the structure of the game. I love the idea that like because it's a portable game, they can't give you a level the size of the world level in Katamari 1, where you start off in a house, and then you leave the house to go to the city, and then you leave the city to go to the countryside, then you leave the countryside to go to the entire world, then you roll up clouds by the end of it. It's a small device. They can't do it. So they put you in a room, and then when you get too big for the room, the king is like, that's enough. Let's go to somewhere bigger. And then it takes your current Katamari, loads up a second level, and then you keep going in there. And so it like has a built-in like you get to take little breaks as you go through it, and it's so much fun. I loved all of the levels. It was so good. But 8-directional Katamari is very hard to wrap your brain around.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to get remade because it's very good. I have now done 2 of the Cowbear levels, one in We Love Katamari and one in Touch My Katamari, and fuck those levels, man.
Yeah,
they're so fucking hard.
Yeah, they're rather infamous.
Yeah, on Touch My Katamari earlier, I ended up getting 4 out of 8 stars or whatever it is that they gave you for how good you did. So I got like half of the way to the Cowbear before I got a cow vending machine. I thought the vending machines would be safe. God damn it! I love this stupid ass game. It's so good. I still have skipped almost all of the cutscenes, and I don't feel too bad about it. I do feel bad about the fully in-engine 3D King of All Cosmos and Touch My Katamari. It's bad, and they should feel bad, and they should never do it again. He needs to be a JPEG in the clouds.
Speaking of Katamari, Keita Takahashi's next game, To a T, comes out in like less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. I need to play it. I also wish I had a time machine so I could play Nobi Nobi Boy as intended.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, playing Nobi Nobi Boy with the online stuff working and everything was pretty great.
Yeah.
It's still fun to mess around with, but
yeah, it's a very fun toy right now, but I kind of wish I could have played it as a game.
Yeah.
But you know what I can play as a game?
You know what also makes me wish I had a time machine? But so I can go forward in time to where all the episodes are out.
Yes. Let's listen to some of this amazing music and then talk about Of the Devil, Episode 0.
This city's got insomnia, with the uneven heart rate to prove it. In the rain, darkness cut through by stuttering neon, a woman is smoking a cigarette while she contemplates the task ahead of her. This is Morgan, and she is a criminal defense attorney. If she doesn't do her job right, her client will die in jail. In a future where nearly everything is recorded, where every phone is always listening and cameras are omnipresent, getting away with any crime is difficult, let alone murder. But that's exactly what her client is being accused of, and since Morgan was already awake at this late hour, the job to represent him has fallen into her lap. That's fine by her, she could always use the work. After finally getting the text from an automated state system letting her know the casework has been approved and directing her where to go, Morgan finishes her smoke and gets to work. we get our title card of the Devil, Episode 0, and He Shall Appear. We also get a chance to either have tutorials on or leave them off, which is a really nice feature if you're replaying. I really wish some games would have something like that instead of make you go through tutorials every single time. The city's 254th precinct is a decrepit shithole, a relic of the bygone days where the police actually had to put work into their jobs. The screen behind the desk is cracked, there's a datapad just lying on a box, and we get a little tutorial on how to look around our surroundings and earn some credits. The way Morgan sees it, information's like cash for a defense attorney, and the best way to make it is to spend it. By examining our background and making it clear that we understand the information we found, we can stockpile credit to use later on in our case, where it effectively is treated as our health as we argue. We also get exposed to special terms, which you can look up on your phone, along with profiles, evidence, and any articles you found. The terms are literally shown as being Morgan searching for it on a search engine online, and thus the results can sometimes be interrupted by sponsored advertisements, or censored by government mandates.
One thing that it does that I appreciate so much is when it comes up to a question for you to get correct or not, you can still pull up your phone and look at all of the information, which you can't do in Ace Attorney, and it drives me up the wall. And so I thoroughly loved that, where I don't remember what the first question they ask is, but I'm like, oh, I have no idea. I was not paying attention, and then I can just go back. You can look at the log. You can look at everything. It rules.
The first question... This is jumping ahead a bit. The first question is actually, what is Morgan's birthday? And I was like, I don't know. So I just picked something random. And then you're told you could go look in your profile to see what your birthday is. And Morgan's like, well, if I can do that, what's the point of asking me the question? But that's getting ahead.
Yeah. It is, just slightly. After looking at all you can, Morgan heads up to the front desk to talk to Desk, the ad who handles registering her for her visit. Ads are automated dependents, a catch-all term in universe that describes all personable robots, androids, digital entities, and holograms. Saying the word automated dependent makes me want to throw up a little bit, which is something I'm sure we're going to talk about later with a lot of the world building in this game. I love it so much. Desk requires some verification that Morgan is who she says she is, and while you can choose to either provide an ID card or have her scan your face, either way Desk needs more than that. Like so many systems in our present day, she asks for Morgan's birthday, a small hoop to jump through that requires we look at the profiles to find out the answer. Profiles not only have biographical information like that, they also have the likes and dislikes for every character, as well as little fun personalized info that's different for each character. It's very fun. It reminds me a little bit of the similarly very simple question you get asked at the very beginning of the first Ace Attorney game as a way to make sure you learn about the court record. You get a chance to talk to Desk further, but once you've run through all of your options, you're sent to meet with the detectives handling this case. Quasim London, an older and laid-back cop who seems like a friendly guy, and Farah Reyes, a new girl who Morgan guesses got sent here due to her charming personality. After some chatter, the detectives fill in Morgan on something that no one else has seen fit to inform her. Her client is not being held on suspicion of a single murder. They're sure that he's the Heartbreak Killer, a serial killer who has caught the city by storm. Morgan feigns innocent about who Heartbreak is, but we see from her thoughts that she's very aware of the city's obsession with this murderous individual. In circumstances like this, she prefers to play dumb with the cops because they tend to be more talkative that way. Heartbreak is an anomaly among anomalies. Not only has he killed 6 people now, all without being caught, he has done so with only 1 bullet per victim, a single shot straight to the heart, never needing to reload his revolver. The gun is old, by which I mean it is a gun like we would see in our times, one with a mechanical firing pin and that uses gunpowder, instead of the mechanics of the sci-fi guns of this setting. It's harder to trace because it doesn't have any electronic tags that they could use to track it. Even more terrifying, every single one of these killings happened in a localized blackout of the network of surveillance the city relies on. Those happen, even if most folks don't know about it, and with the right job, it's possible to get insider info on when and where they'll be. More than that, it becomes clear that this is going to be a very difficult case to argue, since Morgan's client was found standing over the 6th victim, his girlfriend, with blood on his hand and jacket, his prints on the murder weapon. They believe since all 6 victims look fairly similar to each other, the victim was taking out his anger towards his girlfriend on these other women before finally killing her after an argument, one many witnesses nearby heard some time before the murder.
This is a very Ace Attorney case setup. I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of situation we find ourselves in, isn't it?
It is the most Ace Attorney-esque, well fuck, how am I gonna argue this? The detectives also grant Morgan access to the ARCS data, an augmented reality creation of the crime scene made from data collected by first responders to the scene. Along with all the things you'd expect to find in this sort of scene, Morgan also finds a few things that are more odd. Some ceramic debris on the far side of the room that's been tagged as inconsequential, and a pillbox held in the hand of the deceased. Before we can move on, Morgan gets some text from a contact that's saved as Brat, evidently a teenage client of hers who has a habit of hacking and committing scams. As fun as this back and forth with Fran is, it's not really relevant to this case. It's just setting them up for episode 1. There's another piece of damning evidence from the scene that we need to address. A confession, or perhaps let's better call it a note that the client seems to have left. He didn't sign it, but his fingerprints are all over it, so they're pretty sure it has to be his. Reading the note over, of course, might give the player some room to doubt whether this is exactly what the police believe it to be. Before we're allowed in to meet our client, London tries to offer Morgan some advice. He thinks we should get our client to just sign the confession and plead guilty, because, of course he wants that. He's a fucking cop.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a decent-ish point, though. There's going to be a lot of heat coming for whoever gets stuck with these charges, and a plea deal will abate some of those consequences. Evidently, the state no longer has capital punishment, but they do have virtual work release programs, a thing that we're not able to get info on because of how politically contentious they are. What we do know is that, at least according to Morgan, anyone who gets convicted for these crimes will never rest their mind another day in their life.
Reminds me of when Sam and I were playing Star Ocean, and there was just then Ronix made this offhand comment about, oh man, we get caught doing this, we'll be sent to the work camps, and we're like, excuse me? And we don't get any information on that.
The thing when you try to search for these virtual work release programs is the browser's like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't display any information on that because of the current court case, like because of the suicide of this one person who was in jail. It's like, oh my god, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Definitely one of those, they give us just enough details to let us paint the rest in our mind, and there are, no matter how you paint it, it's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's meet our client. Carlos Flat starts off suspicious and paranoid, terrified that Morgan is someone else here to turn his words against him and ruin his life. But she manages to assuage some of that fear by consciously mirroring his own temperament, making up a story about a brother that doesn't exist, so he can feel safe to open up to her. Carlos is modded, the term used in this setting to refer to anyone with cybernetic replacement parts. However, his robotic right arm has been going haywire, so he had to send it in for repair. That's been an issue, though, because without it, he's lost his job, his income, and his dominant arm. His insurance gave him a temporary replacement, but it's clumsy, and he hates it. Hearing his side of things, he admits that, yes, he and his girlfriend had been arguing, he has issues controlling his temper, and he shouted some things he didn't mean, but he didn't kill her. The confession the detectives are salivating over is actually just a note Carlos wrote to himself earlier that day, getting his thoughts on paper. The them he's apologizing for hurting in the note are his girlfriend's collection of fidget tubbies, ceramic collectibles that his girlfriend loved, but that Carlos destroyed by accident because of his shitty replacement arm. Ever since that smashing, he's refused to wear the rental arm.
It's going to take a lot of restraint to not put in the Fidget Tubbies music the second you reference them. Like always happens in the game.
It's so good every time. I love it. When he found his girlfriend's body, he was stunned and picked up the gun out of shock, not even believing at first it was a real weapon, hence his prints all over it. The blood came from trying to wake her up. Morgan asked Carlos to remember exactly what the room looked like, and based on his recollection, she draws a very crude recreation. Oh, and Carlos has no idea that they're trying to claim that he's the Heartbreak Killer. and he barely knows anything about the famous criminal. Before the detectives come in, Morgan talks strategy with Carlos while smoking a cigarette, and in the process, we learn exactly how this is going to work. For her, being a defense attorney is like gambling. Not loot boxes or gacha games, but poker. The state is like a casino. It's the house, and the house always wins. The best she can do is outfox them and play well enough that they politely ask her to leave with her winnings. In practice, that means that arguments in this game work like Texas Hold'em. Some of the cards, the evidence, is on the table for everyone. It's the facts that everyone agrees on. It's the foundation for arguments. It's the final cards, the things that people are hiding, that pivot the point one way or another. When those we face push guilt towards our client with their evidence, we need to refute it without challenging those core suppositions, one-upping our enemy and swinging things in our favor. Even more importantly, we need a good sense of when to stay and when to raise. You stay when you let your opponent's point go by without an argument, because it's too well supported at the moment for you to contest, and you raise when you either know you can beat whatever they're saying, or you think that they're bluffing. And who is our opponent in this game? Reyes, of course. She is all too ready to tear into Morgan and win this, but it's that same drive that is going to get her to make arguments that she cannot win. They start first over the confession, and Morgan supports her client's claim that this was just a note to help him in apologizing by pointing out supporting evidence. The ceramic debris from the scene, which are the remains of the fidget tubbies, though Morgan refuses to remember their name and calls them something different every single time.
It's very
good. The detectives try to argue that the debris would be from the fallen vase. The whole scene was destroyed after all. But Morgan points out that the vase didn't break at all, and that there's no other nearby source that would show where the debris came from. They can even prove it. Since the rental arm has ceramic dust all over it from the accidental smashing, which finally gets them to give up on the point. Or at least they would, but Reyes hates backing down, and starts going down a much more subjective route. The note is so sloppily written. Clearly the chicken scratch is because Carlos was so distraught from murdering his girlfriend. Or, hear me out here, it could be because he's right-handed and had to write it with his left, which is really hard. And hey, wouldn't you know it? It's his left hand that had prints all over the gun. Weird, huh? How is he supposed to shoot the victim through the heart if he can't even write with that hand? From there, Reyes tries to bait us into making several bad arguments that we have no way to support, to which you just need to stay again and again, until Morgan presents Carlos's defense as to why he has blood on him, and why his prints are on the gun, leading to the detective to go retrieve the jacket, and that is where we get our first actual big break in this case. The murder weapon used gunpowder, but there's no smell of it on the jacket. Reyes argues that he could have washed it off to remove the smell, but Morgan counters that pretty simply. If he did that, then why does he still have the blood and fingerprints all over stuff? Aren't those much more incriminating than a smell? Big trouble comes when the police suddenly receive a photo taken at the moment of the murder. The quality's terrible because it was taken through a window and across the street, but it shows a left-handed killer, which fits our client. It should also be noted, I did put this in
this whole part of the scenario is so Ace Attorney.
It is so Ace Attorney.
I love it.
Also, I want to point out for the cyberpunk angle, I didn't put this in my notes, but it just came to me again. I was like, why not? The photo, it's not like someone meant to take that photo. Someone had their phone up, and so the camera was on and recording, not because the person was recording. It just, people's fucking phones are always recording shit now, and it just happened to get this shot.
Yeah, they just were holding their phone up to text or whatever, and the camera happened to be pointed in that direction. So the police were able to see what the phone saw at that time when they were scrubbing through stuff.
I hate it. It's awful. However, this photo also shows that the clock is directly beside the door, which doesn't match the floor plan. Morgan uses this to prove her client innocent. The killer we see in the photo is being reflected from the mirror that was behind the victim, and adjacent to the clock. Thus, the gun is actually being held in the right hand, not the left. There's an issue with that theory. After all, the mirror was found busted up like so much else in the room, and the detectives have been assuming the room was trashed before the killing, when they were arguing. But the shards of glass are on top of the body, not under it, which proves the destruction happened afterwards. That should be the end of it, but Reyes is a shitty gambler. she has sunk so much into proving that Carlos is the killer, she doesn't want to admit she's lost. Morgan finishes her off by summarizing the entire case that they've built against her client and all the holes it has in it, putting it all so neatly in a row that it leaves Reyes in London with no choice but to drop their charges and let our client go. Morgan gets absolutely vicious near the end of this, tearing into Reyes without an ounce of mercy. And of course she does. And of course she's known since the start of this case that Carlos was innocent. Because it's only now, after winning, that we learn the truth. Morgan, our protagonist, is the heartbreak killer.
Oh, shit.
She killed Carlos's girlfriend, but she was so pissed off by the debris in one corner, a mess, after 5 perfectly pristine crime scenes, that she wrecked the apartment just so the messiness was cohesive as a theme. She walked off into the night, leaving Carlos to be caught for her crime, and then took his case for the satisfaction of proving him innocent, and one last fuck you to the state. Of course, it also benefits her. If he'd been convicted on these charges, then people might have dug deeper to save an innocent man, and found something incriminating her. Now, heartbreak can die in obscurity, a cold case that never gets solved. Just like all of her other murders. Still, Carlos is sad even after being proven innocent. His girlfriend, who he loved, is dead, and she died upset at him, maybe hating him. In an optional evidence presenting, another thing from Ace Attorney, you can show him the pill organizer that was found in her hand, proving that the last thing she did before dying was getting his medication ready. It's not conclusive, but it's some evidence that she did care. Well, case over. Everything's done now, right? Wrong. Back in the homicide office, Morgan runs into Emma Rockford, assistant DA and her rival, though maybe rival isn't actually the best word because Morgan has lost every single case she's gone up against her with. Emma is the one heading up the heartbreak case, so they chat a little bit. Emma has already figured out Carlos didn't do it. In fact, she just needed to glance at the file. And before Morgan can explain how she got him off, the prosecutor lays into all of those same reasons and more that Morgan never even thought of, why Carlos was never a good fit for heartbreak. See, she's been studying an older technique that most people don't use anymore, profiling, building an idea of who heartbreak is as a person. And what she's built is scarily close to Morgan. Oh, and wouldn't you know it? All of Heartbreak's victims look a lot like Emma. That probably doesn't mean anything. After some friendly chatter between these two colleagues, these platonic gal pals on opposite sides of the court, we end our episode, and with it we get a little preview of the next one. Yay! Please, please, please let us cover episode 1 on here someday. I fucking love this game!
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, and so it turns out this game is not just Cyberpunk Ace Attorney, it's Cyberpunk Death Note Ace Attorney.
Yes!
That's the twist. And holy shit, it's a combination I didn't know I needed.
Yeah.
What if Death Note also it wasn't just the sexual tension between Light and L? What if Matsuda was hot and there was also chemistry between him and them? We could talk more about that with our mem moms.
I just to start, I guess I love the interaction with Desk.
Yes, same.
I love how, like I mentioned before, you have to, if you get the birthday wrong, she's like, you can look at your profile to see what your birthday is, and Morgan's like, well, then what's the point of asking me? And Desk says something like, I can't comment on the security theater. And Morgan's like, but you can call it security theater? And Desk is like, I don't know, what? It's really good.
I love that. Going through it a second time, I made a decision to do a lot of the opposite dialogue choices I did before. I didn't do that. That one's lovely. One I did, though, is I did do the I didn't present the evidence at the end this my second time through. Because if you do, Morgan chastises herself for it a little bit. She's like, I didn't have to do that, and that was like maybe too far, and what the fuck do I care if this guy feels good or not? And it's like, I don't know, but it's interesting. It's a choice. That's a thing you can do, and that you felt compelled to that, Morgan. I love the setting details in this so much. One of my favorite things, both going through this game, and I've also gone through and watched. I have complicated feelings about the man, but Jello Apocalypse and his group of friends have gone through and did a voiced Let's Play where they voiced the whole game as they were playing it, of what's out so far. And what you get with them, there's also experience I've had, which is every so often you run into a setting detail that just makes you go, fuck, no! Either because it's so exactly on the point, like a mask-off version of what we already have, or it's so clearly just like, oh, we're like, yeah, I could see how we get there in 50 years, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's lots of details like that in the bonus videos that you unlock after the main story. You get the interviews that you can watch, which are really fun.
I haven't actually looked at those yet. I'm going to next
Oh
time
my
me and my sister go to play.
gosh!
I know, I need to.
They're so good. One of them has an almost Christmas means it wasn't Christmas reference.
This game. So, just from the little we have of this game so far, we've talked about all these little touches of Ace Attorney, but also thematically, there's so many one-to-one, like between this and the first turnabout, the first case of the first game. There are so many parallels. Like, Carlos is no Larry Butts, but he does have some Larry Buttsisms to him. He is a real unlucky dude whose girlfriend just died.
Yeah, they mentioned specifically a few times. I think a few different characters are like, yeah, this guy, his thing is that he's really unlucky. I just love the way the mystery is constructed in this, how you enter the mystery and you're like, well, this is just so fucking damning. How are we going to do anything here? And then as you go through it, you're like, oh wait, the cops had nothing on this guy.
Yeah, it's so good because it first of all reinforces that like this wasn't a case that went to trial. This whole case this episode is just us in the interrogation room, and we get them to drop the charges. There is no judge. The prosecutor shows up at the very end and is just a tease for next time, really, an establishing of her character versus Morgan's. But like, that's part of what makes it fun, and how a lot of cases in real life are like this, and are this thing of like, wow, that evidence is so compelling, and then it's like, if you dig into it for 5 seconds, you're like, oh wow, you have nothing. This arrest was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the way they establish Emma's character is so good. She walks in, she's being goofy, sleepy girl, and then they start talking about the case, and she just instantly shifts and breaks down the case in a really incredible way, and it's so good, and she's so funny and charming, but also you're like, I'm scared of when I have to go up against her in the future episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's delightful. My favorite moment with her, and it's like the epitome of like, there's something gay going on here, guys. Is like that moment when she's really digging into like the methodology she's using to try to find heartbreak and everything, and she's getting into all this stuff. And from Morgan's perspective, we suddenly get the whole scene becomes like the background is like golden with like motes of light, and it's like kind of focused on her, but she's also a little out of focus as she's like thinking to herself like, it's like watching a house cat get the scent of a mouse for the first time as her hunter instincts awaken inside of her that have lain dormant. And it's like, Morgan, you are feeling things about this woman that are clearly gay as fuck. And that they're about how she is on the track to catch you.
Oh, this game rules.
Also, Reyes is just, like, she sucks.
I love her.
I hate her, but I love her so
She's the
much.
worst.
I love that her and London are our reoccurring detectives in this game, at least so far, because they're a fun combo, but Reyes especially adds to the toxic Yuri aspect of, like, her and Morgan are just constantly bitching at each other in different ways, where Reyes is just very like, go fuck yourself, you lawyer bitch, and Morgan is just being as backhanded as she can and passive aggressive as she can about things. And like there's a whole thing where for a while Reyes is making digs at Morgan about like, oh well, you know, must be different age, you know, you're just an older generation. And Morgan's like, I'm a couple years older than you at most. And then Morgan throws that back in her face later.
Yeah, when she throws it backwards, like, yeah, so this gun would have used gunpowder. And she goes, what's gunpowder? And then she's like, oh, it must be from before your time. And then she's like, you're not more than a couple years older than me. Like, it's so good.
It's so good. But, like, one of my favorite things is, like, Morgan herself as a protagonist is so... It's part of why I loved Valhalla, is how much not our protagonist is not, like, a cookie-cutter blank slate. Like, I love Phoenix Wright, fine. I prefer Apollo, but Phoenix is great. But also... Phoenix can be, like, he is mostly pretty boring. He has some quirks. Morgan is so not that. She's such a well-defined character, even just in this episode 0.
And the way she's really well-defined makes the twist that our narrator has had this big secret the whole time not feel like it's coming out of nowhere, because it feels like what we've seen this whole time has just been what she is telling us. Like, there's not a literal relationship between her, the narrator, and we, the audience, but it feels like there is, and she's just telling us what she wants us to know. And that is sort of compounded in the interview that you didn't watch, and I can't believe you didn't watch it, where it's very established that Morgan hates revealing any information about herself to anyone. And so that just sort of reinforces that, yeah, she is a bit of an unreliable narrator. We only get what information she wants us to have.
And she's not just an unreliable narrator, but from my foreknowledge of having played half of the next episode, she's an unreliable narrator who's sometimes unreliable simply because she's not as self-aware as she thinks she is. Like, even just looking at her thought process, when we get that flashback to the murder, and the way her, like, thought process works as she tries to be like, no, it's fine that there's a little bit of mess, and then she tears the room apart, and then she comes up with justification afterwards, when it's like, bitch, you were just mad. Like, don't try to turn this into a theme. You were just angry because you're a perfectionist. Like,
yeah, she was like, oh, it'll really eat into the police that the MO was different this time. And it's like, nah.
No, you were just really annoyed. But my favorite part about her being a sociopath reveal is, as much as I love Ace Attorney, and I do truly adore it, it does frequently run into some propaganda stuff. Because even if we are frequently moving against the police in that series, and we are, trying to make sure someone who's been wrongfully accused doesn't get arrested, doesn't get, has already been arrested, but, doesn't get convicted for a crime, we are trying to find the real criminal, and in the process there's a very heavy, well, we gotta find the bastard who did this, because he deserves to go to jail for what he did, sort of energy, which is still very cop. And there's a lot of incidental stuff throughout that's like that. And what I love is just from episode 0, this is a game that is not going there. We don't find out who really did it, because we did it. But, Morgan's the one who did this, and that doesn't matter. What matters is she is getting this person who has been wrongfully accused from being convicted for the crime. And that because we are seeing through her eyes as a criminal, as a murderer, the kind of person that many people would be like, oh, well, she's a serial killer. Like, I might not like cops, but serial killers still deserve to have X and Y and Z, punitive justice things done to them. And we're going to be going through this game from the eyes of someone who has done these horrible things. And we are going, because of how art works, we're going to sympathize with her. We're going to empathize with her. What my favorite thing of playing through this game with my sister has been how many times she has gotten so frustrated over being like, I get her. I see myself in her. There is so much to relate to. And it makes it so much harder to pathologize or to demonize people who have done bad things. And I think in a game about defending people, in a game about this side of the law, I think that's that's a great way to take it. I think it helps prevent it from feeling like propaganda. Though, goddamn, sometimes it is hard to remember ACAB when I look at Reyes.
She is bastard though.
Yeah,
oh no, yeah, she's a
bastard.
complete bastard.
I love Carlos.
Oh yeah, Carlos
Sweet
is
baby
great.
Carlos, who apparently has bad anger issues, so that's not great, but sweet baby Carlos, I love him.
I really like that there's that detail of, like, the whole situation that led to this was just like I never got into it in my recap, but he works in an engineering job. That's what he has his modded arm for. And he got the arm for the job. He was talked into doing it by a recruiter, which, God, that's horrifying. That some recruiter could be like, dude, lop off your arm, get a robot, we'll subsidize it, and then you can get a job with it. And you're stuck with all this debt and renting it. He didn't even own his fucking arm. And it started having issues, and instead of working through, despite having issues that could have led to someone getting hurt, he calls it in, is like, hey, I've got a thing, this needs to get repaired, and it completely screws him over. Like, him doing what we would basically all agree is, like, the objective right thing is what the system eats him for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's cyberpunk, baby!
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, man, what is this kid gonna do now? Because, like...
Great question!
The big conflict in his relationship was that, his partner was making all the money because he couldn't work, and it's not entirely clear if that frustrates her, if that frustrates him more, but that was the conflict, and so, like, he can't do his job anymore, and now he can't rely on his partner. What's he gonna do? I'm worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also, two things that just came to mind. One, I kind of skipped over this because I said the game ends technically with two different previews. It ends with a actual ending scene of this character who we don't get a name for yet, who is being told that she's going to be given to being entrusted to Morgan. This is going to be our Maya Fey. This is going to be our assistant character for the next case, and she's the one conducting the interviews. And then after that, we get like a little trailer kind of for episode 1, which I won't go into at all. But I can't wait for you both to meet our Maya Fey, because that's what Morgan needs. Morgan needs precocious girl around.
I got a taste of that character's personality when I realized she was the one conducting the interviews, and it was fun.
She's fucking delightful. And the other thing I was going to say was a neat mechanic of, I mentioned the credits, which, is your credibility in case. And then I didn't go into, you can, near the end of the first episode 0, you learn that you can bet before you present something in an argument. You can bet how sure you are on this, and that means either you're going to lose more or win more if you're right or not. And so you can really be gambling here. And the thing is, that matters because how much you end up having, how many credits you have at the end of a case, is saved as credits on your phone that you can use to buy different phone cases or phone charms between they unlock over the course of the game. And that's just really fun. That's just a delightful way to and then episode 1 introduces a hard mode, which I'm not currently playing on, and adds another layer to that. It's just, I love it.
Yeah, I really like the gameplay of credits, because it's like, it rewards you for thoroughly looking at everything, so that you'll do better in the game, and also it works as a healing mechanic, because nothing is worse than an Ace Attorney where you screw up a couple times and now you're one hit from the game over, and you're not quite certain which of the teapots it wants you to find the gun in or whatever.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it's very frustrating. This one can be like, okay, I kind of screwed it up earlier, but obviously this is the answer. I'm going to bet a bunch, get my credits back to help me out later, which is very cool. And then in addition, it works as like a high score for you to then get cosmetics. It's like it does 3 things, and I love when game systems do multiple things for the gameplay.
Agreed.
Yeah, the whole poker theming is very well thought out and internally consistent, and I love it.
Agreed. And there's more of it to come. There's new casino things to come, and I really appreciate the staying and raising mechanic, because it makes me think of in Ace Attorney we have like that concept of like, oh, do we want to push further here? Like, how much do we want to dig into this point? And like in Ace Attorney, 99% of the time the answer is yes, of course we press harder. Of course we push further into this argument. You almost never say no. It's a very rare occasions. And this game's like, for being like, no. Really watch this shit. Really make sure how do you think you can challenge this, or do you need to let this go? And it, like, it's a tutorial. It makes it very clear with like, oh, what do you think that? Are you saying this guy had an evil twin? Does he wear it extra small? But
and
like,
I also love that in those things it prevents the Mass Effect problem, where it's like, what does stay or raise mean? And when you hover over it, it like rephrases, like,
yes.
raise is of course he has an evil twin, or stay is you know it's not a fucking evil twin, you stupid ass. And it's very good.
Also, when you have a poker hand going,
Yes, exactly.
you can hover over the person who is challenging you. In this case, I think maybe every time it's Reyes, it might be London once or twice.
It was Reyes every time. London did almost nothing.
Love that for him. You hover over Reyes's face, and it like brings up the statement that you're arguing about. So you can be like, okay, what exactly are we talking about here? Because like often in Ace Attorney, it'll be like, I know what I want to say. How do I say it? What piece of evidence do I present at which point in the testimony in order to communicate what I want to say? And it's not great sometimes. But,
Speaking of that exact thing, I ran into that really hard in Oberden. Not giving exact examples so that you can figure it out yourself, but there's this one person that a thing happened to make another character drop a thing, which made somebody else drop a thing that hit him right in the back of the head. So I was like, did he get crushed by the thing? Did he get decapitated by the thing? Which one of these is the right words? I figured out who he was and how he died like immediately, and I just could not. He was one of the last ones I got because I could not figure out what words it wanted me to do, and it feels bad, man.
It does, yeah. This game's fucking great.
It's so good,
and episode 1 is genuinely even better. It's I love it.
Yeah, I want to play more of it, and I want to finish Danganronpa 3.
Yeah, V3 is fucking great. It's delightful.
I have been like, oh man, I can't. I want to wait until we record the episode until I play episode 1 of this game. But then I was like, oh man, once I play episode 1, I'm gonna want episode 2 so bad, and it's not gonna be out yet. But I am going to play episode 1 because I gotta.
Yeah. I mean, we've only got like, it should be approximately 2.5-3 months until episode 2 is out, so like not that long.
Yeah, probably, but then I have to wait each time until I think they said 5 episodes.
Yep, 5 episodes plus episode 0, which delightful.
I really like the stay and raise mechanic because like you said, sometimes that's a thing in Ace Attorney, but usually it'll be like the judge is like, okay, for arbitrary reasons, I'm only going to let you press one statement in this. So choose wisely. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But it reminded me of the really good part of From the Ashes, where you have to decide at what point in the trial you're going to introduce some evidence. But you're doing that kind of thing all the time. It's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna just, because we've been ragging on Ace Attorney things, and I love Ace Attorney, but this game makes it easy to rag on Ace Attorney because it's so much better. The smallest things. In episode 1, there's a point where Morgan says, Well, the funny thing about the Bird of Proof, Your Honor, is it's not on the defense. Which, goddamn, I wish that was a thing Phoenix Wright said more than once in the whole series.
This game is definitely like Ace Attorney walked so this could run.
Yes.
This is seeing far because it stands on the shoulders of giants, but still, it's really fucking good. And
Agreed.
I don't want to say Ace Attorney is shitty and this game makes it off the lead or something, but this game is really doing a lot to refine it.
Yeah. And I would also honestly say the same thing about, because we could talk about with episode 0 and the twist, Death Note being also clearly a major influence on this. And I love Death Note. I think Death Note's great. I think this is a more interesting thing than Death Note.
Before we continue, I just want to say I never finished Death Note, so neither of you say anything too. I got to the point where the girl shows up.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then I never finished it for some reason.
Without spoiling Death Note, then Morgan, I think, is a much more fascinating protagonist than Light is, because Light immediately gets into his
Light is a
fucking
dork.
Sucks.
I
Light's
hate
a fucking
Light so
dork.
much. His whole thing is that we need more strict punishments for people who have already been caught by the system. What?
Yeah, exactly. It's stupid. Where Morgan's just like, no, she killed these people because she wanted to. And, like, maybe she has maybe it's a complete coincidence that the 5 most recent people she's killed all happen to look like her rival, who she's kind of obsessed with. Who knows? But, she has no justification for this. We get more of an idea of why in the next episode, but even then there isn't an easy way to be like, oh, well, she's doing this for at least X reason. It's like, no, she's a serial killer. She murders people because she feels like it. And there is, God, I'm about to out myself as, maybe relating to Morgan too much in some ways. When she's describing, there's this whole monologue when we get the flashback to her murder, where she talks about the blood stain spreading across a person after they've been shot. And, she gets really poetic with it. And then she's like, and there's, a sound effect of the body falling. She's like, of course, the thump that a body makes when it hits the floor it has its own sort of lowbrow appeal. And it's there is a part of it goes I mean, I do get that there is some primal part of me that finds violence enthralling, that goes yeah, I bet that is a really lowbrow appeal. Ooh, part of my brain just got happy chemicals for that. God, that's fucked. But I see her.
I was looking at the Steam page for of the Devil to see if there was a roadmap or anything to know when all the episodes are coming out, and they do a thing that is so good for people who like to play with the English language. All of the times where they say that Morgan is a kick-ass lawyer, they call her a killer lawyer, which is a normal thing, but they capitalize killer more often than they need to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good.
It's really good.
I love that shit.
Also, early in the case, you get a profile for Heartbreak, and then after the reveal, the profile changes to clearly be Morgan, and it's a different set of fun facts about Morgan than the ones you got just for herself. And instead of listing herself as a criminal defense attorney, it lists her as criminal, defense attorney as her occupation. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. I love this game so much. I'm very much going to start playing episode 1 very promptly.
I'm so excited. Listen, to as my teasing thing for you and others, holy shit, the judge. I love so many characters in this game. The judge is the best character in this game. When you meet the judge, it will change your life. But I say that because I'm a lesbian.
Very excited.
Anyway,
what
are we doing next week, Sam?
Yeah, I won't be able to play episode 1 as much as I want because I will have to be playing Drakengard in a whopping 6-1.
I can't believe it. I can't believe that our audience was presented with the choice of a really cool game that is widely regarded as an absolute masterpiece and a really cool game that's widely regarded as kind of bad. And they chose the one that's kind of bad.
I can't believe
it.
I'm glad we have a brand. But yeah, we will be playing through Drakengard I don't know how much. I don't. I haven't played beyond the second mission of this game ever in my life, so I have no idea how long it is. But we'll figure that out and we'll play that next week. But that will do all of it for this week. So if you like what you heard today, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can donate to help support us. If you do, you'll get some extra benefits. At $1 a month, the Gadabout tier gets access to our bonus feed, where we have after shows for every episode, as well as bonus seasons of the show that are backer only. At $5 a month, the Warrior tier gets the above, but I also read their names at the end of every episode, like this. Shoutouts to Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Kale Dranas, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron524, and JFro Prime. And then at $20 a month, the Luminary tier gets all of the above, plus a one-sentence shout-out to whatever it is they're passionate about. Shoutouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported news site covering video games, the internet, and the cultures that surround them. Also, El doesn't say this, but there's that NeoCity site, I forget which one it is, that it tells you how to follow all the Polygon people, because Polygon died and they fired everybody, and Polygon was really good, and you should follow all the people who used to work at Polygon. I'll get a link and I'll make sure it shows up in the show notes. Shout outs to Vimk, who says it rang fully 20 times before stopping. And then shout outs to It's Claire Time, who says, for you TTRPG nerds, check out Fabula Ultima. I'm not affiliated with the game, I just think it's neat. For RPG Book Club, I've been Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye-bye.